Rock the Ripple. Rock the Ripple. The Rock the Ripple podcast with Narita McInnes.
Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rock the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Narita McInnes. It is so awesome to be here with you as always. And as always, today is another very exciting day because I have another very special guest on the show. He is a certified court interpreter and Chinese translator who was instrumental in arranging for the Chinese publication of Michel Desmarquet's book, The Thiaoouba Prophecy, which has gone on to be a bestseller in both China and Taiwan. He also visited the author of this book in 2016 and 2018, where he had a close working relationship with him. And while the book itself is not a prophecy book, it contains friendly warnings to humanity from highly advanced ETs. There is, of course, so much more to this incredible book and our special guest today, hailing all the way from Los Angeles, California. He is the one and only Samuel Chong. Samuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's so good to be here with you. Now, we connected a little while back and we've been in contact and we've also, you've been on the Journey to Truth podcast as well with Tyler and Aaron, who are incredible. And you have an amazing story with this book. And I feel like for people just tuning in who may not have heard about the book or yourself, perhaps we can start there and hear a bit of your story and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes, because the messages contained in the book are so important that I think they may affect our future, the future of mankind on Earth. The book actually talks about the author's personal experiences of being taken away by this highly advanced, highly civilized ETs to their planet for 9 days and then came back. And then he was told of many interesting facts about the history of mankind on Earth, who built the Great Pyramid and for what purposes, what really happens in the Bermuda Triangle, who are Jesus and Christ, and what really happens in a lot of what we see today, like the real dangers on Earth. Number one being money, number two being politicians, number three journalists and drugs, number four religions, and what we need to do to improve our lives and change our future for the better.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a lot of people that totally agree that we want to change our future for the better. Absolutely. So I was listening and reading the book, and I have listened to it all. Actually, I did the listening one so I could listen on my walks, and I found it really interesting. And the story is about a French-Australian man, Michel Desmarquet, who was living in Australia. And he, well, perhaps you can tell the story of how he got to know and what his experience was for the listeners.
Yes, he was just a regular landscaper living in his very simple life in Australia until 1987, during one night in which he was lifted up to the middle of the air. And then he saw this beautiful, tall, like 9 or 10 foot tall, angelic looking ET wearing spacesuit. And then the ET appeared to be like a beautiful woman, took him to their spacecraft and they began the journey. And he was told many of the mysteries that can connect all the dots together, such as like auras. Like some people say that they can see the colors of auras, and it has explained to Michel Desmarquet, the author, what auras are, the importance of aura, and also the importance of recognizing the meaning of life, which is to improve our spiritual development, to focus more on the spiritual aspect of life. Because Michel Desmarquet was shown his past lives, and this is actually a confirmation of reincarnation, just like some of the people who believe in Buddhism know that there's reincarnation. And a lot of research studies done by Western scientists also show that there is reincarnation, such as the works done by Dr. Brian Weiss and also Dr. Ian Stevenson. And I think a lot of the things mentioned in the book deserve special attention because they come from a very unique source in which we can have the facts and verify ourselves to validate the claims and also the interesting suggestions mentioned in the book.
Yeah, and there were so many throughout the book, and even what was highlighted to me. I mean, I took notes along the way, and the number 9 stood out to me. And there were, do you want to talk about that a bit? Because there was the different astral bodies, and the ninth. Now, what did I write down? So I want to get this right. Where is it now?
Category of planet.
Yes,
And
thank you. All right, yeah, take it away. Take it away, Samuel.
yes. So the number 9 is actually a very important number in the universe. Actually, it connects to the Chinese traditional culture, the Taoism, in which we believe that 9 is the ultimate number of the universe. 9 times 9 goes to the ultimate source of the universe. And this book also confirms that, saying that it is no coincidence that we have from 1 to 9, and then there's number 10, and then 1 through 9. 1, the Arabic numeral 9, the number 1 has one angle if you write it, and the word number 2, the number 2 has two angles, and 3 has three angles. The way that you write it in a certain way will indicate the number of angles in the numeric number. And also it's actually a universal pattern in which 9 planets rotate or revolve around a star, and 9 stars revolve around a bigger star, and 9 bigger stars revolve even a bigger star until the source, the center of the universe. So this is like a pattern of 9. And also there are 9 different categories of planets in the universe. Earth, being a category 1 planet, is actually the lowest level, the most fundamental and most basic level of planet in the universe. We are learning the basics, just like elementary school students. But the inhabitants of Thiaoouba, the planet in which Michel Desmarquet went to, is a category 9 planet, the highest category in the universe. They are just like universities professors, like our mentors, giving us directions and general principles of life so that we can learn and progress. And after the 9th category, you'll be the source, the great ether, in which the great spirit exists. So the number 9 is actually a very important number. And a lot of other mediums also confirm the same. There's a medical medium called Anthony William, and he emphasized the importance of number 9 as well. So are the practitioners of numerology. So the number 9 is very interesting.
It really is. And the number 9 also, because I've been studying numerology myself, it also comprises of all the other numbers as well. So it's a very powerful number, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so when Michel Desmarquet had his, I guess you'd call it an adventure with the Thiaoubans and all that sort of stuff, he went to different planets. He learned different ways of being. He was given different sort of enclosures and things so that he could operate in different densities and all that sort of stuff. There was a lot that he learned while on his adventure, and I'm sure when people read the book, they'll be able to get a lot more from it. But do you want to talk a bit about some of those things that he really learned on his journey, and that he was to bring back as well, and to make sure that he didn't change anything that happened, and that he just wrote it exactly as it was?
Yes, he obtained the ability to see the colors of auras. He also obtained the ability to understand all the different languages spoken by ETs on different planets. He learned the history of Earth. He learned where we all came from. He learned that there are past lives and what his past lives were. And he actually was shown of his past 80 past lives or reincarnations. And he also learned that there is indeed the Akashic record that records everything that happens on a planet like Earth. And he was actually taken into a specific period of time, about 14,500 years ago, when the continent of Lemuria and Atlantis were still existing on Earth. And he was told that we actually can travel back in time because there's a cocoon or psychosphere that rotates at 7 times the speed of light, recording and documenting everything that happens on Earth. We can actually go back in time. If we can match the vibrations of this psychosphere or cocoon. So it's also a lot about the vibrations and also the colors and sounds being a manifest form of different vibrational frequencies. And he was told that we should focus more on the effects of colors in our life, and also sounds, because they're therapeutic. And he was told to really just bring back the knowledge to the people on Earth so that we can make the right decisions in the future.
Yeah. And I remember that part of the story where he was talking about how sound, I mean, we know that sound, vibration, frequency, energy, that's what we're made up of. And that sound can really play a huge part in our healing, but it can also be detrimental. Like I remember they were talking about just the sound of the cars and that sort of stuff. And it can really, you're used to the sound, so you don't hear it, but it's actually still affecting your body in different ways, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Noise is actually the worst form of pollution on Earth because noise damages our astral body, which is made of electrons. Because the vibrational frequencies of noise are so damaging to the electrons of the astral body that it would take a few generations to restore back to the original form of astral body. So one thing is noise, the other is the drugs, hallucinogenic drugs. Is another thing that damages the astral body of a person. So this book is very unique in the sense that no one else has paid much attention to the dangers of noise and hallucinogenic drugs.
Yeah. And the other thing that he talks about as well is the colors, and you were talking about auras just before as well, how the colors you could, if you knew your aura color, you could paint the room of in that color, always wear that color, that sort of thing. Like it can really, I mean, we know a lot of this as well too, and we can take imagery of our auras, and sometimes I believe our auras can change as well. So, but knowing what that is can really play a part as well, can't it?
Exactly, because auras are really important in representing or showing a person's not just the health in general, but also the psychic of a person, the psyche of a person. I know there are aura readers such as Barbara Brennan, such as Rosalind Brewery and Judith Collins, who can see the colors of auras, and they can really tell if a person is having illness in a specific organ in his or her body, because the colors just doesn't seem to be natural, or doesn't seem to be healthy. So that's the thing. If you can actually kind of improve or restore, repair the aura colors before they turn bad and manifest in the physical body, then we can actually prevent a lot of diseases from happening. And we can also tell if a politician is lying or not, because their psyche, whether they're lying or not, they show up in the auras or the colors. So if there's a general election, such as for example, Trump versus Harris or Kamala, we can just tell who is more sincere just by looking at their auras.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess that's a gift that we all have. We do have this ability, but we've had it sort of blocked off, haven't we? And it's up to us to practice and train ourselves into being able to see auras and to be really tapping into our intuition and all that sort of stuff. Do you feel that as well, Samuel?
I feel that way to a certain extent. I think a lot of the abilities, such as seeing auras or being clairvoyant, can be learned or trained if we just meditate in a specific location, in a specific manner. But the thing is, a lot of times nowadays, we're so distracted by the daily life, by the realities of earning more money for materialistic aspect of life, that we don't tend to be able to kind of have this kind of mindset or state of meditative state to focus our attention to developing our psychic abilities. It says that in the ancient past, about 1.35 million years ago, people in Africa, like after a certain catastrophe, they were able to develop a lot of these psychic abilities, such as communicating with each other through telepathy or being able to levitate. They were able to practice that because they lived in rural parts of the country or the continent, and they were able to develop their psychic abilities more effectively than what we would have been able to be done nowadays. So I do think that it can be learned. It's just that nowadays we don't have this kind of environment or mindset to do so.
Yeah. Well, and here in Australia, we're really lucky. We've got Rachel Vaughan, and she teaches people how to read auras and also feel into and see ley lines and portals which make up across the world. So that is something that's really powerful as well. And so I totally agree. We can learn how to do that, but we need to switch it off all the distractions and to be able to tune in, don't we? Like you were saying, and really take the time to do it and be intentional about it. We have to have that intention. Do you feel that as well?
Yes, I do. So I do believe that way. And actually, I've been actively looking for people to help me to develop like an aura camera. People who can see the colors of auras, feel free to contact me. And then I'm trying to gather data, sufficient, reliable data, so that we can develop aura camera so that we don't necessarily have to rely on individuals. Um, and we can actually use the aura camera to serve as a proof to the non-believers, and we can use that as a kind of entertainment tool to see who is lying and who is not.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's so cool. It will be entertainment as well. And it's so fun being able to do this sort of work, isn't it? It's so expanding, which kind of leads me to my next question that's just dropped in. I mean, you came across this book at a certain time in your life. It called to you. There was a bit of a story there when you were trying to find out more about contactees and UFOs and all that sort of stuff. And then you got to actually meet the author. So I think that's really an important part of this chat we're having and your story. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yes, it actually came from my curiosity when I was young. I was always looking for answers, like the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the Bermuda Triangle, the statues on Easter Island. I was wondering, like, who built those and what happens over there, like what happened in the past. I thought that if we don't know the answers, the engineers and scientists don't know the answers, the ETs, if they can visit us, they must have advanced knowledge and to tell us what really happened in the past. So I was in my subconscious mind always looking for books or messages of ET contactees. So when I came to the US in 1993 at the age of 15, I was looking for such books, and I read so many of them, and I was looking for one that could be validated or proved or proven. And so back in 2014, I was searching on Amazon looking for books written by ET contactees, and this book came out. Back then, it was called Abduction to the Next Planet. And I thought, oh, it's just another book. Why don't I just check it out? And I read it, and I couldn't put the book down because it connects all the dots. And intuitively, I believe that book, everything written in the book is true and correct. Especially when I read the chapter on who is Christ, it answered all my questions about Christianity as a religion and what really happened when Jesus was born and after he disappeared for a certain number of years. Some people say he went to India, and indeed he did go to India. And then who is Christ? Because it seems that Jesus wasn't able to perform miracles, but Christ did. When Christ appears in the Bible, he just seemed to be like this omnipotent person, suddenly changed, being extremely different from the Jesus who was born from Virgin Mary. And it also explains why Christ, when he saw his mother, he didn't call his mother mother, he called his mother woman. I'm a linguist and I study languages. I know the relationship of a mother and a son is so special that not a single language in the world in which a person would call his mother woman. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make any sense at all. But this book explains why Christ called his mother woman, because Jesus and Christ are two different human beings or two different beings. And the Jesus who was born from Virgin Mary was indeed a very highly spiritual person, having a very special or profound conversation with the teachers of the temple. But he couldn't perform miracles. He traveled to India, went to China, and died in Japan. And this is why there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo village, Japan, that people can still visit and people can still look up on the internet. It's spelled as Shingo, Shingo village, Japan. And you can search the tomb of Jesus. You can find out well-documented articles talking about and showing pictures of the tomb of Jesus. Christ, on the other hand, is a being who was able to perform miracles so that people would believe the teachings of Christ. Because the reason is that people in the past are very similar to people nowadays. They're highly skeptical. They wouldn't just believe the teachings of a person unless the person could perform miracles, do something that they wouldn't be able to do. So Christ, in order for his teachings to be believed, had to come from a place and another planet and to perform all the miracles as documented in the Bible after Christ began preaching. So if you want to learn more, you can read a book. I can elaborate, but I think it's probably better to read a book because a book contains specific verifiable information that would shock a lot of the readers.
And it does it breaks it down well, and it talks about how religion is sort of separate. We don't they don't spruik religion at all. So it's more around the story and bringing things together, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, as Michel Desmarquet wrote in his book. So very interesting. So how did you get to meet the author then?
Yeah, so I was reading the book, I couldn't put the book down because it's so revelation, like so shocking to me, and so incredible the story is to me. And in the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author Michel Desmarquet knew, but was told not to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. I was very, very curious what that would be and why he wasn't allowed to write those information in the book. Because I think like at that time I would be able to understand and I really wanted to know more that he knew but didn't write in the book. So I decided to track him down and I searched a lot on the internet about where he's about. And it turned out that he was living in Vietnam at that time. And there were some tourists who happened to meet him and posted their experiences or encounters with Michel Desmarquet. And I grabbed one of the pictures showing the bungalow or where Michel Desmarquet was living in Vietnam, and I printed it out. And I didn't know where exactly he was living, and I flew to Vietnam, to that island, and I showed that the picture that I printed out to the local taxi driver, and asking the taxi driver to show me and to take me to where that picture, that bungalow was. And the taxi driver said he was going to give it a try, even though there would be no promises. And then the second try, he took me to where exactly that picture depicted. Michel Desmarquet was having an afternoon nap, and I waited until he woke up, and we had a conversation in which he was actually not very happy to meet me at that time. He was a little bit annoyed at my visit because he didn't want people to look for him because of the book. And but I did, and I asked him a lot of questions, and he just asked me to read the book one more time, one more time. And but I did help him to get a book published in China, and so we built up this friendly relationship. And after this kind of my help, and he began to have more frequent conversations or by email with me. And he invited me for the second time, in which he said he was allowed to tell me that one thing he didn't write in the book.
And is that something you can share or not?
I was asked a lot about this, but Michel Desmarquet told me that how the ET told him to tell me not to tell everyone else what that one thing was. But what he didn't say was I couldn't write an article revealing as many clues and giving as many hints as possible. So this is what I did. I wrote an article and posted on my website, revealing a lot of the clues or hints. And so if people read between the lines, they would know what it is generally about. And I can give you the link afterwards.
Yeah, we'll link everything in the show notes and description for people. And because, I mean, and Michel Desmarquet, he's no longer physical. He passed away, didn't he, in 2018? Was that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can just imagine like he's sort of like living in Vietnam, just doing his thing, and then you rock up at his door and just say, "Oh, hi, I'm here to talk about the book you wrote." I can imagine that would have been a bit of a crazy thing for him. So then to be able to get to know you and to be able to trust you, and then get you to translate the book so that you could put it in China and Taiwan, like you was said, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, especially I think it's a miracle that China allowed this book to be published, even though as a science fiction, because the book contains a lot of information about religion, even though it's anti-religion, it's not for religion, it's for spirituality, it's not for religion. But
Yes.
China has so much control in the media that anything related to religion is a taboo topic in China. But we got the book published, and it's actually a bestseller in China. And we later got it published in Taiwan. It's also a bestseller in Taiwan. So Michel Desmarquet must be very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had to put it as nonfiction in order to get it across the line in China, didn't you? You couldn't write it as a true story, which it is according to Michel Desmarquet, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in China, we have to publish as a fiction, a science fiction story. But in
Fiction, sorry.
Taiwan,
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
in Taiwan, we did publish as a nonfiction because
good.
Taiwan has a more open, like, communication or media.
Yeah. Sorry, fiction. I got it, I got it around the wrong way, but you know what I meant. Thank you. Glad you're here. What else? I mean, because since you've been studying this book, you've obviously were meant to come across this book because you are teaching about everything that you've learned inside, and you're spreading the message to everyone and anyone who will listen. You've done conferences talking about the messages in there. What's your biggest hope and goal from doing this work?
my biggest hope is that everyone can wake up, not just the people who are in the community, spiritual community, but people who are not in the spiritual communities, people who still rely on the mainstream media, people who are still into the so-called conventional science or conventional medicine. And I hope that everyone can wake up and know what's really going on behind the scenes. Because in the United States, people just tend to think that either the Republicans are good or the Democrats are good. They don't see the people running behind everything, manipulating the two parties. And I hope that people can see that, when the time is right, people can act collectively in a non-violent way to fight against tyranny, just like what Gandhi did in India, what Dr. Martin Luther King tried to convey or preach in the US, that it's going to be a collective action so that we are going to have better lives in the future. I hope that's going to be happening or that's happening. That's my ultimate goal. And also hope that people can understand that the most important sentence, one of the most important sentences in the Bible is the kingdom of God is within you. When you have challenges in life, you should look inside for answers and not to be swayed or be led by a specific politician or religious leader. Because when God created everything, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of us, becoming part of our astral body or higher self. So we can actually communicate to God directly without going through an intermediary agent like the pastor or priest or specific religious leader. We can just pray or meditate or just have a good night of sleep, so that we can communicate to the source, the great ether or God, through our higher self. It can be done very easily, and we don't have to really go around and find someone else to act as our agent because we are part of God and God is part of us.
Yeah, I love that you said that because all the answers do lay within. We are that powerful, and when we trust that and when we tune into that and make that connection, we have all the answers that we need. And you saying that, it reminded me of something else that Michelle would say, and that was that night brings counsel. And if you've got something on your heart that's bothering you or that you want to figure out, you go to bed with that intention, and that's a lot of the work that I teach as well. You go to bed with that intention to solve the problem or to get the answer, to get clarity, and that night, the sleep, the rest, it brings counsel, doesn't it?
Exactly. Because when one sleeps, one's astral body has direct communication with the higher self of a person. So the higher self is the one that actually kind of gives you the information or suggestions in your life. And the suggestion will be brought to you if it's good to your spiritual development. So why do I say that? Because a lot of people just dream of winning the lottery or winning a big prize. Is it going to really benefit the spiritual development of that person? Not necessarily, but it could be. But so if it's really good for your spiritual involvement, then the suggestions will be brought to you or given to you through dreams or through meditations. And I think it's very interesting because I have a friend in Los Angeles, and she wanted to use money that she gets to help to bring more awareness to her friends and clients. She actually wanted to build like a temple, a physical temple, and she dreamed of a lottery number, and then told her husband to buy the lottery that day. And her husband didn't believe her. And it turned out that series of number would have won her the biggest prize in lottery. But
Wow.
her husband didn't do that. So the timing mustn't have been right at that moment. So it's something that showed that she could have the ability to do so, but the timing wasn't right.
Yeah, so that's why her husband didn't go. That was sort of interfered with in a way because that wasn't for her highest good.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And that is true though, because I mean, it's great you can think about, oh, winning the lottery, but really, like you said, it's about our spiritual development. And in order to become our fullest potential and who we're here to be, there's lots of things that need to fall into place that is bigger than what our conscious mind can understand and interpret, isn't it? And we have to allow for the synchronicity and for the divine to work its magic. Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree, totally, 100%, because we have to really know the meaning of life. We have to really focus on the really important aspects of life. We, a lot of, Chinese people or people in Asia, they tend to want to gain or accumulate a lot of wealth, very materialistic, and they don't necessarily realize that um, when you die, you don't really take away any of the material wealth with you. If Bill Gates dies today, he wouldn't be able to take all his money or wealth with him to wherever he goes. So just like Napoleon, he conquered a lot of territories, but when he died, he didn't take away any of the wealth or territories that he conquered. So what's really the important thing in life is to learn lessons, learn how you would be able to respond to life challenges appropriately, and to help each other, to be compassionate, to be loving to each other. These are the most important spiritual lessons that a person should learn. And a lot of people should realize that when you die, you're able to have a life review process in which everything you did in your lifetime will be shown to you in a holographic form, in which you are able to see what you did correctly or incorrectly and what other people felt when you did certain things onto others. For example, if you hit a person um, wrongfully, and that person's pain would be felt by you during this life review process, and you will immediately understand that you did something that you shouldn't have done to that person, and you'll be extremely regretful. And actually, during this life review process, um, Adolf Hitler, will be extremely regretful of what he did to the Jewish people. So he would feel all the pains and sufferings of the Jewish people. So this is the life review process. And then once you know everything, once you know what you should be working on in the next lifetime, in the next reincarnation, you would choose the life that you would learn that kind of spiritual lesson. You would choose your parents, you would choose the environment, and then if you agree to take on that family or that environment, then you would be allowed to enter, your astral body would be allowed to enter the embryo of that mother. And but during that process, everything that you remembered will be erased, and you have a new, fresh journey ahead of you. And it's really up to you how you take on your next life journey.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? And there's just, I mean, you talk about well, I say you talk about it in the book. Michel Desmarquet talks about it in the book, the reincarnation, all that sort of stuff. And then, I mean, obviously they're from the ninth planet, like you said, the different planet levels. People can obviously go to have those experiences as well. And I mean, they were living for thousands of years. Their bodies regenerate themselves and all that sort of stuff. Do you think that's something that humanity has to look forward to, or is it something that we would step into in another lifetime in a different way?
Well, a lot of people after reading the book really want to go to and visit or live on Thiaoouba, the ninth category planet, because everything's so perfect over there. Everything is so bright in colors, and the people there never die because they can just, as you said, they can regenerate their body cells and tissues. They're always very beautiful and sexy, and they are forever young. They're always look in their 30s, and they can perform all the miracles that's performed by Christ, like levitation and manifesting objects, communicating through telepathy, and just heal all the diseases that we can imagine. They can also like download information from each other. Uh, many interesting things that they can do. And for us, we live in a very different environment, and we have to be born and to um, have diseases, and we live and to a certain age and we die. So we have to go through all the cycles because we have different lessons to learn. We have different roles in life or on earth, which is to learn the basic lessons. And this is actually a very good way to learn the lessons, because the harsher the environment, the more effective you can learn the lessons. The more challenging the problems are, the more you can learn about solving that problem. So it's just like a mathematical problem. If you always practice like 3 + 5 = 8, then you're always at that level. Then if there are more challenging problems to be given to you, like calculus problems, then you advance to a different level. So we advance spiritually once we are ready. So if you behave very spiritually in this lifetime, then you're going to progress at much faster pace when you reincarnate. And I think it takes time to do that, but it's a necessary step to do so.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's so interesting, and there's so many different experiences. I'm in the book as well. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but there were so many different bits, and they talked about as well the docos that they would stay in as well. So that's another thing too. And I can't remember if they were like you could go inside, you could see outside, but people couldn't see in, and that's where you would get your rest and that sort of stuff, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. They use a specific force, and then that force, when it's presented or projected, then it forms like a shield, and the shield has this kind of characteristic in which um, you can see the outside from inside, but you cannot see inside from outside. And then when it rains, the raindrops kind of are prevented from entering the inside of the doko. But when a heavy bird like lands on the doko, then because of the weight, the bird would be scared because it would fall to a certain extent into the outer skin of the doko or outer layer of the doko, and then the bird will fly off. It's very interesting. Kind of you have to read the book to know more specifics of the dokos.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's so much in that book as well too. You're taken on a journey, and I know I think it was at the end that Michel Desmarquet talks about reading it 3 times. What do you feel is the purpose for at least reading it 3 times?
Well, the first time I read it, I was more focused on the stories on Jesus and Christ. Actually, Moses, Jesus, and Christ. The parting of the sea of reeds, the parting of the sea, and giving manas out to the Hebrews, and then the birth of Jesus and the resurrection of Christ. I was more focused on that. But the second time when I was reading it, I was more focused on the reincarnations, the past life of Michel Desmarquet. And the third time that I read it, I was more focused on the collective actions using nonviolence that we people on Earth could follow and could imitate and could do to change the future for the better. So each time when I read it, I always get a different focus or different kind of feel or importance of the book. And a lot of people tell me that when they read a book, the second time, they couldn't believe that they missed certain things the first time that they read it. So it's very interesting. And when they read it the third time, then they cannot believe that they missed certain things that the previous two times that they read it. So the book is so dense, containing so much information that it deserves a lot of attention, and one has to read so many times to really kind of grasp many of the information or facts contained in the book.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of books too, isn't it? Because you read it once and then perhaps you put it down for a while and you come back to it. You've had new learnings, new lessons, new challenges and opportunities to grow. And you read the book and all of a sudden it's from a whole nother perspective. And so I can relate to that as well too, because yeah, it depends where you are in your life and what you're focusing on, like you said. So it's so interesting, so interesting. What haven't we touched on about this book? Because I know it's a lot easier for people to glean information from it by reading it. But is there something in there that we haven't that I have missed? I know there's a lot. There's a lot we won't be able to talk about, but
Maybe like 98% of the
yeah.
book. I can tell a little bit about what I just mentioned, like the pyramid of
Yes.
Egypt. It's actually a cosmic tool used by the ancient pharaohs to concentrate or collect cosmic and terrestrial energies in a manner in which the pharaohs could sit in the middle of the pyramid and concentrate and project the energies through the top of the pyramid to other spheres and worlds, and to communicate to the ETs or inhabitants of other planets. And they also use the Great Pyramid as a tool to make rain by projecting certain energies into the sky, into the clouds, so that the rain would form. It was actually built by a great learned person about 12,000 years ago called Thoth from Atlantis. He had the knowledge, so he was able to align the pyramid in a way that that they can capture the energies. And he used anti-gravitational technologies and supersonic vibratory systems to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. So this is how he built the Great Pyramid. He didn't use 200,000 slaves. He didn't use 40 years of time to do that. It took only about 9 years of time for him to build the Great Pyramid of Egypt. That's the Pyramid of Egypt. And I can go on and on and tell you something about, or tell the audience about the Bermuda Triangle, the missing people, and also the statues on Easter Island, ancient civilizations such as Lemuria and Atlantis. In Lemuria, and people didn't need and didn't use money. People didn't take advantage of each other. They just took whatever they needed from the marketplace. And they had great civilizations in which the ETs had direct contact with them, and also helping them to colonize other parts of the world, such as India and North America and South America, and different places, and also things like how to really make a tool that can neutralize gravity. We should focus on the vibrational frequencies to neutralize the gravity, and how to make a time machine. We should match actually, it talks about the Philadelphia experiment that the US government did in the 40s or 50s. They were trying to cloak the ships by projecting certain wavelengths of energy onto the ships so that the ships cannot be detected by the radars. But for some reason, there was a distortion of space and time, and the ship disappeared and reappeared in another location and in another time. So they were saying that this is the first step, but if the US scientists really want to develop a time machine, they should match the vibrational frequencies of the psychosphere, of the cocoon that rotates 7 times the speed of light. So that's a way to develop successfully a time machine. Also talks about what we can do to select better politicians, to make better choices. The politicians that really kind of focus on the interests of the people, they really don't care about how much salary that they earn. They don't worry about like their own interests. And there are ways to do so, and it's actually written in the book. And actually, it bypasses the two-party system. And it's more like a semi-Republican and semi-democratic system. Not the Republican or Democratic Party, but it's a Republican system or democratic election system. So there's so much information in the book that I strongly suggest people to read it, because it's actually the best investment ever made in my entire life. I mean, reading this book gives me better returns than reading the works of Warren Buffett or George Soros or Jim Rogers or Ray Dalio, the financial people. The book is priceless.
Yeah, it is priceless, and it has so much information. I'm so glad you brought up Atlantis, Lemuria, the pyramids, the Bermuda Triangle, because I've got, and a lot of that stuff I've got written down, but I've just been listening. So I'm so glad you touched on those things as well, and Thoth as well. It's just, there's so much in there. There is so much in there. And I can see, reading it 3 times, you'll get so much out of it. But just even if you can read it once, just to get a feel for it, there's just so much to take in. And I think, you were talking about how we can, in the book, it talks about how we can have societies where things are balanced and things aren't about money. People have everything that they need. And, we already have everything we need within. It's now our time to create that across the planet in the best way possible. And I feel like this book is its goal, I feel like its mission is to share that, but also to open people's minds and hearts to all the possibilities. Would you say that too?
Yes, it would really give people a lot of the information and knowledge so that they can really benefit themselves. For example, it talks about the importance of color having therapeutic effects. For example, I did a lot of research on that. The book touches on this point very lightly, but I did a lot of research. It turns out that the color red can give a lot of people energy and making the blood circulation flow much faster and better. And the color green can treat people with migraines. And the color blue has antibacterial, antiviral effects, as verified and proven by scientists of Harvard Medical School. So there are a lot of scientific papers and documents and experiments proving the points or made by this book with a lot of specific scientific backings. And this book also tells people a lot of other information. For example, the dangers of certain things, materialism and technologies, and the reasons why there are so many excellent artists in the 18th and 19th century, or maybe early part of the 20th century, but not so many nowadays. It's because people nowadays are more focused on the materialistic aspect of life, material accumulations, or yeah, just I personally used to work with those kind of people who just focus on earning more and more money. Now, when I look at their lives, I think they probably will realize sooner or later that they should focus more on being more compassionate and helping people and loving each other. And and things like that. Just exactly what Christ preached.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, the more of us that can come into our heart space and operate from that place, I mean, the world will be a better place for sure. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I'd written down, technology is not a material knowledge. Okay, now I can't read my notes. Technology should assist, not confine people. So, and it should, a bit unrelated to what we were saying, but basically the material things, the technology, we can use it all for good, but we don't need an over extend ourselves with with material things. If we come back to our heart and really start there and operate from that place, it really will make the biggest difference, won't it?
Exactly. I think if people just follow the teachings of Christ, loving each other and helping each other, and not to focus too much on deceiving each other or because of the need of earning more money or suppressing certain information or suppressing information about the inexpensive and effective methods of fighting certain diseases. And I think the world will be a much better place. Or like suppressing technologies or clean technologies like hydrogen engines, like Stanley Meyer. I don't know if you know him, but he invented a water-based vehicle or
Mm,
water-powered car in the 1970s in the US. That's actually well publicized by news media at that time. But he died mysteriously
mm,
before he was able to commercialize such vehicles. It's just special interest groups always focus on money, money, and money. There are many better things, technologies that we can really benefit humanity and society as a whole and to reduce pollution. It's just that people need to know this.
that's right. And knowledge is power, and then taking action is power. And we are the power as well. I should say that too. Samuel, I have so loved chatting with you. And what I will do is make sure that all your links to the book, to your articles as well, any articles that you want to share, we'll put them in the show notes and description. But before we wrap up, is there anything else on your heart that you would love to share before we do?
Yeah, I would really encourage people to really read this book. If you don't really have to buy this book if you don't want to. You can just search online, find a free copy, a PDF version, or you can just borrow it from your library. I'm not making money out of the book. I'm just thinking the information or messages in the book are so important that it deserves special attention. So that I'm spending a lot of time and energy to promote the messages in the book and the book. And I think you're going to um, be rewarded greatly by reading this book.
Absolutely. Well, Samuel, I just want to take this time to thank you so much for your time today and for sharing all your knowledge and your wisdom and everything that you've gained from the book, and just for your curious, amazing mind that has brought you to exactly where you are. And I look forward to seeing how everything unfolds from here. You're definitely sharing from the heart and a message that is so important for this time for humanity. So thank you so much for that. And while I'm thanking you, I'd love to thank you at home too. Thank you always, as always, for being here. So appreciate you. I hope you have loved this episode as much as we have. And if you have any comments, as usual, leave them in the comments area. Myself or Samuel will come back to you. Always love hearing from you. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But thank you for being here. And Samuel, just thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you having listened to this book on Audible before interviewing me or discussing this book with me. Yeah.
Yes, no, it's so good, and there's so much in there, and I think anyone will get something out of this book, absolutely. And I've got the PDF version as well too, but I listened to it. It was fantastic. So thank you again, Samuel, for being on the show, and yeah, I hope you have the best day.
Thank you. You too.